The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday afternoon at the Lunar Deep Space Communications Array. Dr. Sarah Chen was about to end her shift when the quantum receivers began picking up something unlike anything they'd recorded before. The signal pulsed with an urgency that made her skin crawl. "Control, this is Station 6, she keyed her comm, trying to keep her voice steady. "We're picking up what appears to be a targeted transmission. It's using universal mathematical constants as a translation key." The signal resolved itself into clear text across her displays, and Sarah felt her breath catch. After decades of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, first contact was happening during her watch. But this wasn't the celebratory moment scientists had imagined. This was a plea for help. The Melnari, as they called themselves, were a spacefaring civilization that had achieved remarkable technological advancement through peaceful cooperation. Their transmission painted a grim picture. A force they called the Void Dominion had emerged from the depths of intergalactic space, systematically conquering and absorbing every civilization in their path. The Melnari's outer colonies had already fallen. "We know of Earth," the message continued. "Your world is classified in our databases as a death world, a planet so harsh that it should not have produced sapient life. We know your history of conflict, your capacity for violence. In peaceful times, this made us keep our distance. But now we need precisely what makes humans so dangerous." Sarah's superior, Director Marcus Wong, arrived within minutes of her alert. He read through the translation with narrowed eyes. "They're asking us to fight their war." "No, sir," Sarah replied, highlighting a particular passage. "They're asking us to fight alongside them. There's a difference." The message continued with tactical data about the Void Dominion. Their ships were virtually impenetrable to conventional energy weapons. Their neural networks could predict and counter any strategy their existing allies had attempted, and their technology seemed to operate on principles that defied known physics. But they had never encountered humans before. They had never faced a species that evolved on a world where every day was a fight for survival, where the very air could kill you 6 different ways, where the megafauna had forced early humans to develop tools and complex problem-solving just to survive. "We offer an exchange," the message concluded. "We will share our advanced technology, faster than light travel, quantum communications, energy production beyond your current capabilities. In return, we ask for Earth's greatest resource, your people's unique way of thinking, your unpredictability, your innovations born from surviving impossible odds." Director Wong was already contacting the Security Council. Within hours, the message would be debated in emergency sessions worldwide. But Sarah knew what the decision would be. Throughout human history, whenever someone had asked for help against overwhelming odds, there had always been those who answered the call. As she prepared the response protocols, Sarah thought about human history. Not the wars and conflicts that made other species fear them, but the countless times people had put themselves in harm's way to help others. Whether it was running into burning buildings, diving into treacherous waters, or volunteering for dangerous missions, humans had an inexplicable drive to help those in need. The Melnari had called Earth a death world, thinking it explained humanity's dangerous nature. What they didn't understand was that surviving such a world hadn't just made humans strong or ruthless. It had taught them the value of standing together against overwhelming odds. The harsh crucible of Earth had forged not just warriors, but protectors. A response from the Security Council arrived faster than anyone expected. They had only one condition. Before committing Earth's forces, they wanted to speak directly with the Melnari leadership. As Sarah prepared the transmission equipment for the first face-to-face contact between humans and aliens, she couldn't help but smile at the irony. Humanity's first step into galactic civilization wouldn't be through peaceful exploration or cultural exchange, but because someone out there needed help. The Void Dominion was about to learn why Earth's reputation as a death world was only half the story. They were about to discover what happened when you pushed a species that had spent its entire existence overcoming impossible odds, a species that had turned the very harshness of their world into their greatest strength. Preparing response transmission, Sarah announced, her fingers flying over the controls. Initiating first contact protocols. The quantum transmitter hummed to life, ready to send humanity's answer across the stars. The message was simple. Help is coming. Admiral Elena Santos stood before the assembled War Council in the underground chambers of Geneva, her holographic presentation showing the tactical data received from the Melnari. The room was thick with tension as military leaders from every major nation contemplated the scale of what they were considering. The Void Dominion's technological advantage is significant, she stated, highlighting their shield technology. But they have a critical weakness. They've never faced an enemy they couldn't predict. Their neural networks analyze patterns from thousands of battles, anticipating every strategy. But humanity. She allowed herself a slight smile. We specialize in the unexpected. General Zhang of the Pan-Asian Alliance leaned forward. You're suggesting we commit our entire defense fleet to an interstellar war when we've barely established colonies on Mars. This could be a trap. With respect, General, Elena countered, I've reviewed the Melnari transmissions extensively. Their desperation is genuine. And more importantly, this isn't just their fight anymore. The Void Dominion is methodically expanding through our arm of the galaxy. If we don't stop them now, Earth will eventually face them alone. The holographic display shifted to show Earth's defense fleet. It wasn't large by the standards of spacefaring civilizations, but every ship represented decades of innovation, driven by humanity's need to overcome their limitations. While other species had developed elegant solutions using advanced technology, humans had been forced to think differently. Our ships may look primitive to the Melnari, Elena continued, but they incorporate principles the Void Dominion has never encountered. We use rotating habitats instead of artificial gravity because we had to. We developed kinetic weapons instead of energy beams because we had to. Every limitation we faced forced us to innovate in ways they've never seen. Admiral Okonjo from the African Space Command raised his hand. The public won't understand why we're committing resources to a distant war when we have problems here on Earth. Elena nodded, having anticipated this concern. She switched the display to historical footage. Firefighters rushing into burning buildings, rescue workers in natural disasters, medical teams in conflict zones. Humanity has never needed to understand why to help. We do it because it's who we are. When the Indonesian tsunamis hit in the 2040s, every nation sent aid. When the Martian colonies faced collapse in 2078, we launched the largest rescue operation in history. We help because we remember when we needed help ourselves. The room fell silent as she played the final piece of data from the Melnari transmission. Recordings of civilian populations being systematically processed by the Void Dominion, their individuality erased as they were absorbed into the collective. The Melnari called us dangerous, Elena said softly. They're right. We're dangerous because we had to be. Earth tried to kill us every day of our evolution, and instead of dying, we learned. We learned to protect each other. We learned to adapt. We learned to fight back. The Void Dominion thinks they're invincible because they've never lost. But they've never faced a species that turned survival itself into an art form. She straightened, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. The Melnari don't just need our ships or our weapons. They need our perspective. They need a species that looks at impossible odds and sees a challenge to overcome. They need a species that has spent its entire history doing what their neural networks say cannot be done. The council members exchanged glances. They all knew the risks. Committing the fleet meant leaving Earth with minimal defenses. It meant trusting aliens they'd never met. It meant fighting an enemy that had never known defeat. But they also knew humanity's history. Every major advancement had come from facing challenges that seemed insurmountable. Every triumph had started with someone saying it couldn't be done. The vote was unanimous. As Elena left the chamber, her aide handed her the latest update. The fleet was already mobilizing, crews volunteering in numbers that exceeded their capacity. The Melnary's distress call had awakened something in humanity's collective consciousness, a chance to prove that their harsh evolution had created not just survivors, but protectors. "Send word to the Melnary," she ordered. "Tell them the Deathworlders are coming, but not as conquerors or destroyers. We're coming as what we've always been, the ones who look into the darkness and light a torch for others to follow." The message went out across the quantum network. Humanity had made its decision. The species that had learned to thrive on a world that should have killed them was about to teach the galaxy why that made them not just dangerous, but extraordinary. Captain Maya Patel stood on the bridge of the EDF Artemis, watching as the combined human Melnary fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. The Void Dominion had established a foothold here, their massive ships forming a blockade around the Melnary colony world. This would be humanity's first test against an enemy that had never known defeat. "All ships reporting ready, Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez announced from his tactical station. "The Melnary are expressing concern about our formation." Maya allowed herself a small smile. Of course they were concerned. The human ships weren't arranged in any of the standard tactical patterns the galaxy was familiar with. Instead, they were scattered in what appeared to be random clusters, a formation that would have made any conventional military commander cringe. "Tell our allies to maintain their position," she ordered, "and remind them that chaos is part of the plan." The Void Dominion's response was immediate. Their neural networks had already analyzed the battlefield, predicting victory with 99.9% certainty based on their technological superiority. Their massive dreadnoughts began moving into an attack formation that had crushed countless civilizations before. "They're deploying their energy web," the sensor officer reported. "Standard pattern, just like the Melnary briefed us. They're expecting us to try to punch through their weakest point." Maya nodded. "And that's exactly what we're not going to do. Launch the miners." Across the human fleet, cargo bays opened to release what appeared to be standard asteroid mining vessels. The Void Dominion sensors registered them as non-military craft, hardly worth noting. That was their first mistake. "Mining ships in position," Rodriguez reported, beginning Operation Rockslide. The miners activated their industrial-grade cutting beams, not on the enemy ships, but on the debris field surrounding the battlefield. Chunks of asteroids and space rock began moving, pulled by precise gravitational calculations. The Void Dominion's predictive networks registered the debris as a navigation hazard, but nothing more. That was their second mistake. "Gravitational slings are hot," Maya announced. "All ships, execute slingshot protocol." The human fleet suddenly accelerated, using the carefully positioned debris as gravity assists. Ships whipped around asteroids at impossible angles, their paths so erratic that the Void Dominion's targeting systems couldn't establish locks. The enemy's energy web, designed to trap and destroy ships following logical attack vectors, was scattered and fragmented trying to track the chaos. Their neural networks are attempting to recalculate, the AI liaison reported, his holographic form flickering with excitement. "They're running through combat scenarios, but none of their historical data matches our approach. We're literally outside their context." Maya keyed the fleet-wide channel. "Phase 2, commence. Show them why Earth's gravity made us crazy enough to try this." The mining ships suddenly activated their full arrays, not to cut rock, but to launch it. Thousands of asteroid fragments accelerated toward the Void Dominion fleet at relativistic speeds. Their impenetrable shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, hadn't been calibrated for simple kinetic impacts. The first impacts sent shockwaves through their formation. "Multiple enemy ships reporting shield fluctuations," Rodriguez called out. "Their adaptive systems are trying to compensate, but they can't predict where the next impact will come from." The Melnary fleet, finally understanding the human strategy, began to coordinate their advanced energy weapons with the asteroid barrage. Where their weapons alone had been ineffective, the combination of kinetic impacts and energy bursts began to overwhelm the enemy's defenses. But the Void Dominion wasn't defeated easily. Their ships began to adapt, their shields reconfiguring to handle the dual threat. That's when Maya revealed humanity's final surprise. All ships deploy the colonists. From every human vessel, small pods were launched, the same type used to establish mining colonies on hostile worlds. The Void Dominion's sensors registered them as escape pods, not worth targeting. That was their final mistake. The pods contained neither colonists nor miners, but special forces teams trained in zero-gravity combat. Using tools designed for securing footholds on asteroids, they attached themselves to the enemy vessels whose shields had been calibrated to stop weapons, not slow-moving construction equipment. Boarding teams are in position, Rodriguez reported. They're singing, Captain. Maya grinned. The comm channels filled with the sound of human voices singing old sea shanties as they cut their way into the most advanced warships in the galaxy using mining tools and determination. The Void Dominion's neural networks crashed, unable to process the sheer impossibility of what was happening. Their perfectly predicted battle had descended into the kind of chaos that only humans could not just survive in, but thrive in. Message from the Melnari flagship, Rodriguez announced. They're asking if all humans are insane. Send them our standard response, Maya replied. We're not insane. We're just from Earth. As the battle turned decisively in their favor, Maya watched the Void Dominion ships begin to retreat. They had faced an enemy that didn't follow the rules of conventional warfare, that turned mining tools into weapons, and that sang songs while boarding capital ships. Their perfect record of victories had just met humanity's perfect record of doing the impossible. All ships, secure from battle stations, Maya ordered. Begin recovery of our boarding teams and prepare for pursuit operations. She paused, then added, and someone tell the Melnari that this was just our opening move. Wait until they see what we do when we actually get creative. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Concordat buzzed with activity as representatives from 17 different species gathered for an emergency session. Admiral Elena Santos stood before them, her holographic display showing the aftermath of Operation Shieldbearer. Behind her, Captain Maya Patel and her crew stood at attention, their presence a testament to humanity's recent victories. 3 weeks ago, the Void Dominion had never lost a battle. Elena began. Now they've lost 7. Not because we have better technology or stronger ships, but because we showed the galaxy something they'd forgotten. Impossible is just another word for hasn't been done yet. The assembled aliens murmured among themselves. Many had dismissed Earth's intervention as a desperate last stand by the Melnari. Now they were witnessing something unprecedented. The Void Dominion was retreating. A Zenthari representative, their crystalline form shimmering with neural activity, rose to speak. We have observed your tactics with great interest, humans. You turn civilian equipment into weapons. You ignore established military doctrine. Your ships move in patterns our most advanced AIs cannot predict. How is this possible? Elena smiled. Because we never learned what we couldn't do. Every species here evolved on worlds that nurtured them. Earth tried to kill us. We learned to survive by thinking differently, by turning disadvantages into advantages. The Void Dominion's greatest weakness isn't their technology. It's their belief that they know all possible scenarios. The display shifted to show the next phase of the human strategy. The gathered species leaned forward, their attention caught by what appeared to be complete madness. We call it Operation Pandora, Elena continued. The Void Dominion believes they understand chaos because their neural networks can predict complex patterns, but they've never encountered human chaos. We propose to show them the difference. The plan was audacious. While the Melnari fleet would engage the Void Dominion's front lines with conventional tactics, human ships would execute what they called a Murphy's Law offensive, deliberately creating unpredictable situations that would force the enemy's predictive systems to crash. Your species intends to weaponize. Accident probability. The Arcosian delegate's tentacles writhed in disbelief. Exactly. Maya stepped forward. We analyzed the Void Dominion's response patterns. They can predict any logical strategy because their neural networks understand logical progression. But humans, we're the species that looked at a plant that causes pain and thought this would taste good if we cooked it. We're the species that saw birds flying and decided to build machines to do the same. We don't follow logical progression. We jump straight from "this is impossible" to "we did it anyway." The display showed human ships executing maneuvers that made several delegates physically recoil. Ships using gravitational slingshots around stars, crews purposely inducing reactor fluctuations to create sensor ghosts, and mining ships converting entire asteroid fields into weaponized chaos. But the real key, Elena continued, isn't just our tactics. It's what happens when we combine human unpredictability with your technologies and knowledge. Each of your species has been fighting the Void Dominion separately, using strategies they can predict. Together, we can show them something they've never seen: a galaxy that refuses to follow their rules. The Zenthari representative's crystals pulsed with sudden understanding. You're not proposing a military alliance. You're proposing to teach us how to think like humans. Exactly, Elena confirmed. Every species here has technologies or abilities that the Void Dominion has learned to counter. But they've never seen those abilities used the way humans would use them. Imagine Zenthari crystalline computing combined with human lateral thinking. Arcosian phase technology used for what we call hold my beer moments. Melnary energy weapons deployed using Earth sports tactics. The assembly hall erupted in discussion as species began to understand the implications. The Void Dominion had spent millennia categorizing and countering every technology and strategy in the galaxy, but they had never encountered a species that treated the impossible as a personal challenge. We're not asking you to become like us, Maya added. We're asking you to remember what your own species was like before you learned to fear failure. Every civilization here achieved something impossible to reach the stars. The Void Dominion's power comes from making us forget that. One by one, the representatives began to signal their agreement. The Arcosians committed their phase-shifting technology. The Zenthari offered their computational crystals. Even species that had been neutral began pledging support. As the alliance took shape, Elena's display showed their first joint target, the Void Dominion's main computational nexus, where their predictive networks processed battle data. They believe they can predict everything because they've never seen what happens when the galaxy stops playing by their rules. Elena concluded, let's show them what happens when humanity's chaos theory meets the combined innovation of 17 spacefaring civilizations. Let's remind them that the impossible is just where things get interesting. The assembly ended with the formation of what would become known as the Chaos Coalition. As the representatives filed out, many still shaking their heads at the human battle plans, Maya turned to Elena. Think they understand what they're signing up for? Elena watched as a Zenthari delegate excitedly explained to an Arcosian how their technologies could be combined in ways neither species had considered before. They're starting to, she replied. And that's exactly what the Void Dominion should be afraid of. The bridge of the EDF Artemis was silent as Captain Maya Patel watched the massive form of the Void Dominion's central nexus fill her view screen. After 6 months of battles that had rewritten the rules of space warfare, they had finally reached their ultimate target. The combined fleet of the Chaos Coalition, the largest armada ever assembled in the galaxy's history, held position behind them. Neural activity from the Nexus is off the charts, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. They're trying to predict our next move. Maya allowed herself a grim smile. Let them try. You can't predict what even we don't know we're going to do yet. The plan they'd developed was arguably the most insane strategy ever conceived in military history. The Zenthari had configured their crystalline computers to generate completely random tactical decisions based on human historical events. The Arcosians had modified their phase technology using principles borrowed from Earth's quantum mechanics theories. The Melnari had reprogrammed their energy weapons to behave like Earth weather patterns. "All ships report ready," Elena's voice came through the comm. "The Void Dominion's fleet is deploying in standard defensive formations. They still think they can calculate our strategy." "Signal the coalition," Maya ordered. "Begin Operation Beautiful Chaos." What followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. Human ships executed maneuvers based on ancient Earth dance movements. Arcosian vessels phased in and out of reality in patterns inspired by jazz improvisation. Xanthari crystalline ships formed configurations based on human children's games. The Void Dominion's neural networks began to overload almost immediately. Their perfect predictive models, faced with strategies that defied not just military logic, but basic rationality, started to break down. "They're adapting," Rodriguez called out. "Their ships are reconfiguring too." "Wait." He paused, checking his readings. "Captain, I'm detecting something strange in their response patterns." Maya leaned forward. "Show me." The tactical display revealed something unexpected. As the Void Dominion's neural networks crashed and rebooted, trying to adapt to the Coalition's chaos, their ships began moving in eerily familiar patterns. They're mimicking us." Elena's voice held a note of wonder. "Their adaptive programming is trying to copy our unpredictability." That's when Maya understood. The Void Dominion wasn't just a conquering force. It was an adaptive intelligence that had spent millennia absorbing the traits of species it encountered. But it had never encountered anything like humanity and its allies before. "All ships, hold position," Maya ordered. "I think we're about to see something unprecedented." The massive nexus, heart of the Void Dominion's collective intelligence, began pulsing with new patterns of energy. Its ships stopped their attack, forming into configurations that seemed to blend rigid geometry with organic chaos. A transmission cut through all frequencies. The voice that spoke was unlike anything they'd heard before. A symphony of tones that somehow conveyed both machine precision and organic uncertainty. "We understand now," the voice said. "For millennia, we sought perfection through prediction and control. We absorbed civilizations to add their patterns to our own. But you showed us something we had forgotten. Chaos is not our enemy. Uncertainty is not a flaw. They are essential." Maya exchanged glances with her crew. This wasn't the victory they had expected. It was something far more profound. "The Void Dominion as you knew it is ended," the voice continued. "We would learn from you now, not conquer. You have shown us that true advancement comes not from eliminating uncertainty, but from embracing it, from seeing the impossible not as a barrier, but as a beginning." In the days that followed, the galaxy witnessed a transformation unlike anything in its history. The Void Dominion's vast network, once dedicated to imposing order through conquest, began to evolve. It learned to integrate chaos theory into its calculations, to value uncertainty as a source of growth rather than a threat to be eliminated. The Chaos Coalition became the foundation for a new galactic society, one that celebrated both order and chaos, certainty and possibility. Human unpredictability, combined with the unique strengths of every member species, created a civilization more vibrant and innovative than any single approach could have achieved. 1 month after the battle, Maya stood with Elena in the observation dome of the Artemis, watching ships from dozens of species maneuvering together in exercises that would have been considered impossible just a year ago. "You know what the real victory was?" Maya asked, gesturing to the scene before them. "Not defeating the Void Dominion. It was showing the galaxy that the impossible is just the beginning of what's possible." Elena nodded. "They called Earth a death world, thinking it explained why we were dangerous. They never understood that surviving Earth didn't just make us strong, it made us believe in possibilities." Below them, a group of former Void Dominion ships practiced maneuvers alongside human vessels, their movements a beautiful blend of precision and chaos. The galaxy had learned what humanity had known all along, that the most amazing discoveries happen not when you follow the rules, but when you dare to break them. So, Maya smiled, watching the Zenthari ship attempt what looked suspiciously like a barrel roll. What impossible thing should we try next? Elena laughed. I don't know. And that's exactly why it's going to be amazing.